Hi Surfskate land, Johnny here at Flowstate Surfskate, and I'm quickly going to go through the Koan and the Zen decks. But before I do, I'm just going to go into the reasons as to why I started building my own surf skates, and then how this little weird business happened of making surf skates. And the DNA, the beginning really was frustration. I hated the decks that were out there. Surfskate has so much impetus and technology and design into the trucks, from Carver to Yao, brilliant systems. But the deck seemed to be an afterthought, and they were shaping the decks to look like surfboards with little swallowtails. And for me, well, that just renders them a toy. They'll never be taken seriously if the decks just look like surfboards, especially when it's people landlocked miles from the coast that would never surf. It just makes it a bit of a joke. But also the decks just weren't functional enough for me. And when you think about it, that's the bit that you connect with. That's what your feet touch. That's how you drive your power. It's how you push your calves. And it needed more input. And I guess it kind of started originally with longboards as well. Big, long, flat things like this. It's completely flat, and I get it, you know. Does a job really, I suppose, but for me, there wasn't the ability to rock and roll and use the power. And what I put in the previous video, and I'll just go through it very quickly, I moved to an area with really bad surf from an area with brilliant surf. And a very famous surfboard maker made me a thing called a planing hull, which I wanted to hate. But it was spectacular because it kind of turned off the rail, it kind of turned off the middle, and it just had this wonderful cruisy feeling. And I thought, well, if I'm going to be skating on flat ground, car parks, boulevards, etc., I want to have those long deep calves. So the final prototype was this one, and hence you can see the logo there. It says bam effing boo. For ecology reasons I use bamboo, and that led to this final deck, the Koan. And as you can see, it's got a double concave. Don't know whether we can actually see that there, with a little kick in the nose. But what we've got a completely flat deck. It's got a double concave, so where your foot sits, you can very easily rock the paddle backwards and forwards. So no matter where your foot sits, you can get your toe in, get the rail down, and have really long, slow carving turns. And I've kept it so that the wheelbase is really wide as well. You've got a bit of adjustment, but the idea is the wheels are as far out as possible to have that really nice, non-cruisy feel. And you've got, don't know whether you can quite see them there, you've got two power pads either side. So there's no kick tail to keep it flat, so you can get your knee down, do long calves. But these little pressure pads that you can kind of see here, those little convexes rather than the concave, those recesses, they allow you to get your foot to roll and rock on them. And of course you then got pressure, so you can really get your foot down and do really long elongated turns. All out of bamboo, each one's different, using plant-based inks. It's called Koan because in Buddhism, Koan is a paradox, a paradoxical story, and the Koan kind of is a bit of a paradox in that it's a surf skate longboard cruiser. You can see the double concave there. So you can see how you can get your foot and you can rock backwards and forwards. So that's the principal idea, long, deep carving turns. So that's the Koan, eco, plant-based, and I actually use bamboo as a stencil for the artwork as well. And there's various designs of these in different artworks, which led me onto something I wanted to be more focused so I can do harder, bigger, faster turns, because when you get into these things, about a year into it, I was still riding other people's decks, and the frustration continued because there was nothing really that you could be super progressive on. And I come from surfing for 40 years. I'm used to doing big power turns and being a back foot surfer. So the next deck I came up with, and the video you saw there was, crikey, I think 30 prototypes before the final design. And this is the one you see me riding in the videos all the time. So this is called the Zen. And this is our production Zen. So again, it is predominantly bamboo. You've got a wood-based maple laminate on the outside to get the wood stain on. You've got a 3D style emboss on it, so it's a screen print. But the idea behind this deck is super progressive. There's not a millimetre of this deck that isn't designed for performance. So you've got a very much a cupped, a very, very cupped V concave, but you can see that it bowls out. So the idea is you've got a solid area to put your foot on, but no matter where you put your foot, you've got a cupped area for really, really hard, fast carves. So again, it's wide, it's 10 to 9.5 to 10, but you can see that progressively the concave deepens, then shallows, then deepens, it recesses to a slightly rocked kicktail. The reason for that is you can roll your foot off. So if you're doing Burt slides or laybacks, you've got an area that's easy to navigate, as well as you've got a deeper concave in the middle. So all the way through, it's super progressive. And it took a lot of time to get this deck as perfect as it is. But yeah, so it's all cupped out. Progressive concave, you can see the concave through the middle. Super, super performance based. And the idea behind this deck is that if you're using flats, if you go into bowls, if you go into parks, this is a deck that's designed to rip no matter what you do with it. So it's 33 long, and again, set quite wide. You've got axle underneath the power point of your foot and a bald area for the front truck. But that's the Zen. Again, eco, predominantly bamboo, designed to absolutely rip. And there is another deck coming out. So Koan, a Buddhism thing for paradox. Zen, well, Zen is a Buddhism that de-intellectualizes Buddhism. And the next board I'm coming out with is an absolutely focused murderer of a deck for street and bowl. So it's a very, very focused skateboard deck thing for bowls and parks and ramps. And the idea is I've made it a bit more skatey so that you can then put C5 carvers on it, old carver trucks that a lot of people like, as well as Yao. But it's absolutely focused in terms of wheelbase and rocker. I'm on the 4th prototype of that one, and hopefully that one will be out in a month or two if I can get it right. But I want something that was pin sharp, brutal, accurate. It's going to be called the Muashi. There's a Buddhism theme for all of this, and if you know who Miyamoto Muashi is, Google him. He was an absolute badass of a guy, and that's what the Muashi deck is going to be. A couple of questions I get asked though. People always ask me, what is the secret sauce that I go on about? Well, I can't really tell you what that is because it is a secret, hence it would just be sauce. But it's to do with the construction, but it's also to do with how the rocker and the concave is put through the board. You know, it isn't an afterthought. Every single millimetre, like I said, is progressive. So the secret sauce is what's in here as well as the shape. Another question I get asked is, why don't I do artwork on the decks of the boards? Why is it all grippy? Well, because they're not toys. I don't want to make things that look pretty. I know I put a lot of work into the artwork at the bottom, but these are functional weapons for fun. So I don't really care about logos. And again, if you get a really nice surfboard, you cover it in wax, you can't see the artwork anyway. It's function over form, but we'll make them look pretty on the bottom, and then form. The other question I get asked quite often, when people see that they've delivered and got my boards, is what's the little bag that comes with the boards? Well, I can't tell you what that is as well, because that's a secret, but the people who buy the decks know what they are, or buy the completes know what they are. But yeah, so that's where we are. Super focused. We do bowls, parks, street, an absolute ripper of a deck, does everything. If you're just doing flat work, something more cruisy, but you want to do long swooping curves and have the combination of a surf skate and a boulevard cruising cruiser board, that's that. And soon we'll have an absolute weapons grade deck for the people who just want to live in bowls and parks. Hope you like.